Hello, hello. Hey, friends. How's it going? All right. Just going to give us 1 sec before we get going. And if you don't mind taking a sec, we would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat box. If you could tell me your name, where you're calling in from, and tell me what you do for business. I would love to know. And if you're a business in the making, tell me that. Also, if you're new to Crowdcast, you'll see you've got a couple different controls down at the bottom here. You've got your chat box, asking a question, and that's it for right now. You should also have a button, a green button, inspiring you to enroll. Awesome. So if you can take a sec, just introduce yourself in the chat box. It's right over at the bottom right-hand corner. Would love to know, we'll do this for you. Name, where you're calling in from, and your business. So let me know all those things. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. I'm going to give folks a couple minutes to get on, and then we'll dive in. Hey, Becca. Hey, Zoe. Yes, Zoe, yes, yes. Awesome. We're going to have a good group this morning. I'm really excited. Hey, Caro. Hey, Madison. Oh, Madison, you're in New Jersey. Sweet. Did you know I'm in New Jersey? Where in New Jersey are you? Jen from Long Island. Welcome, Jen. Awesome, awesome. Caroline, we're just taking a sec to introduce ourselves, give folks a minute to get acclimated. Oh, awesome, Madison. That's so great. Oh, sweet. I live in Montclair. We're right around the corner. We can be buds. Sweet, sweet. All righty. Well, I am super excited for today because I personally love teaching new content. It's like one of my favorite things. I find it like very exciting and exhilarating. If you also teach content in any capacity and you feel me, like, you get it. I just love teaching new stuff. I think it's so much fun and it's exciting. And I love webinars because not only do they give me an excuse to shower and do my hair and put makeup on, but I get to be with you all and I get to be live and teaching, and that's honestly like my favorite place to be. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come hang out with me today. And we're going to dive right in. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And let's come back over here. There we go. Alrighty, cool. So in case you're not sure what we're doing today we are going over the Masterful Mamas model. So if you saw some of like the content leading up to this webinar, we were talking a lot about how your business needs more than passion. That's really like our focus for today's webinar. I want you to just a couple of things like housekeeping real quick. I really encourage you to turn off your phone, close all the other tabs that are on your computer. I know you have like 50 of them. Minimize those down. Get rid of any distractions. We're going to be here for about an hour, and I would love for you to just like honor that and give yourself permission to dive right in and have your full attention here. I'm also going to be asking you some questions throughout, and as you've all already demonstrated, we've got the chat box down there in the bottom. So feel free to answer the questions I'm going to ask you down there. And then also, if you have any questions, Chromecast is kind of cool because you can actually ask a question. There's a button down in your controls at the bottom. So if you want to make sure I don't miss something, feel free to pose a question there. But I'm usually pretty good at keeping an eye on the chat. So you can also ask your questions there. That's totally fine. Cool. All right, so for those of you that I don't know or that we are new to getting acquainted, my name is Emily. I'm a business and mindset coach, and I really specialize in helping women take up space in the world. Women are historically told to stay small and to take up as little space as possible and to be as quiet as possible. And it is like my personal mission to disrupt that narrative. So I love helping women learn how to use their business as a catalyst for the life they want to lead. And we'll talk a lot more about what that means. Like, what do I mean by a catalyst? But for right now, it's truly using your business to create the life that's outside of your business to feel the way you want it to feel, right? And sometimes what happens is we get really caught up in the business side, and our business requires an enormous amount from us. And the life we lead outside of our business can really suffer because of that. And so I like using our businesses to create the life we really want to be leading versus that life kind of suffering because of our business. I am also a mom. This is Bo. He looks absolutely adorable here. He was being quite the terror this morning. And you might even hear him crying at some point because that is real work from home life right now. So yeah, this is Bo. When I created my business, I hadn't actually, I was with my husband when I first started my business, but I knew that I wanted to have a business model that I could maintain through pregnancy, through maternity leave, and through having kiddos. And I knew that that was going to be a really important part for me when I built the foundation of my business. This is also part of how like Masterful Mamas was created and ultimately what I'm hoping for you. So here are 3 learning objectives we've got for today. We're going to go over the Masterful Mamas model. This is a 4-part framework that I've designed that I believe leads us towards successful entrepreneurship. We're also going to do a little bit of an exercise throughout that teaching, identifying like what pillars you specifically are going to need help with and you do need help with right now. And then lastly, we'll go over some ways in which I can support you moving forward. All right, so I think it's really important to understand like why I started my business and a little bit of like brief history on me and like where this all came from. So I was a traditional career climber. I hadn't really thought too much about entrepreneurship like in my 20s and leading up into my 30s even. And I tried so many different hats, y'all. I was in nonprofit. I thought I wanted to run for office. So I did like a year-long training to get ready to run for office. I worked for corporate America for a long time. I did lots of 9-to-5 jobs. I commuted. I worked remotely. I have pretty much like run the gamut. And every time I quit, I would just quit. I like hated the job. And it wasn't even necessarily that the work was bad or that I felt disrespected or undervalued. It was like, I just wanted freedom. Like I wanted flexibility. I wanted autonomy. I wanted to like create my own schedule. I wanted to be responsible for myself. And so ultimately, like none of these positions ended up working out for me. So I'm curious, I would love to just like take a second. Let me know like in the chat, does this resonate? Like, are you the same way? Did you also come from a career climbing path into entrepreneurship? Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? I would just love to know a little bit about like why y'all started your businesses or why you're even considering starting a business if you haven't yet. Let me know in the chat. Oh, nice. So Caroline, you had like the opposite. Yeah. Hey, Erin, no worries, girl. And back to entrepreneurship you went. Yeah. I did. I guess like you could say I was a little bit of an entrepreneur in my 20s. I like taught yoga and personal training for a while. Oh, yeah, Zoe. Totally, girl. I've been all over the map. Yep. Career climber, ready for freedom. 100%. So, Becca, you come from a family of entrepreneurs. Me too. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, and so was my grandmother on my mom's side. Why am I not the boss already? Yes, exactly. Oh, good, good. Yeah, totally, Madison. We're going to talk about that too, about like trying different ideas. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit in terms of whether, like, how risk averse you are, which I think is a really interesting thing. Jen said, I considered starting my own business, but always told not a great idea. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so Jen, it's really interesting when like some of us get the story and like get the narrative when we're growing up that entrepreneurship is like badass and like you should do it 100%. And then other people, there's a lot of limiting beliefs around that of like, that's too risky, that's too dangerous. What if you fail? You might not make money. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too, like that risk averse behavior and what to do like when we feel worried about things or when we feel scared. And then we'll also be talking a little bit about imperfect action, which I think ties into that perfectly. Cool. Thanks for sharing that with me. So what I wanted from my business, when I first started my business, I actually wasn't nervous that it was going to take over my whole life. I know some people, I think some people like feel a little fearful about starting a business. They're like, wow, that's going to take so much time. That's going to take so much energy. I was just like, y'all, I was so passionate and I was so excited about what I was doing that like, I didn't care. I would work like 10 plus hours in a day. I would pretty much forget to eat. I'd be dehydrated. I'd have like bloodshot eyes at the end of the day from just staring at my computer. But like I was so happy because I was doing what I wanted to be doing and I wasn't reporting to anyone and I was my own boss and it like just it was filling my soul. The problem was eventually like that model wasn't sustainable. So like eventually I did burn out and we're going to talk a little bit more about like what that looks like. But I was relying so heavily on passion to drive my business forward in the first couple months. There were these really, really high highs, and tell me in the chat box if like you can relate to this, but there were these highs that were just, it was like astronomical. Like I would just be like, I'm on top of the world. Like I'm getting all the sales. I'm doing all the things. Like everything is moving forward. And they would always be followed up with these super low lows where I would like get a headache. I would get short with my partner. I wouldn't see my friends for days. I'd probably not exercise. That's like always been a big indicator for me for how balanced I am. If you know me, you know I love CrossFit and it's a huge portion of my life. And when I first started my business, there were periods where I'd go like a whole week or two without exercising, which to some people may seem like not a big deal, but for me who like goes every day, that was like a big red flag. I was like, what's happening? And beyond like being exhausted, beyond like disrupting the norms that hold like my self-care norms, I also noticed that like my content started to get really sporadic and a lot of my ideas weren't coming to fruition. And so what was happening was like I would be riding this wave of passion and like creating as much as I possibly could. But when I would come down off of that, like nothing was being made, right? And like nothing was going out into the world. And so like if you were looking at my social media feed, it would be like a week of Emily and then Emily's gone and then a week of Emily and then where did Emily go, right? And it was like this big ebb and flow. And I eventually was starting to really burn out and I knew that I needed a better way to handle my business. Otherwise, like it just wasn't going to last. So tell me in the chat, I would love to know if like this resonates for you. Like, have you felt this in your business or like, do you fear this moving forward in your business? This kind of like seesaw effect between like totally crushing it and then completely flopping. Yeah, Caroline, I know it's really hard, y'all. It's not easy running a business. And I think we're in an especially unique position when as an entrepreneur, usually your work is your like greatest passion, right? And so for most of us, hopefully like what you do in your business is like what gives you purpose. And so it makes sense that we would want to spend endless amounts of time doing that, right? Like it feels good. We want to We want to be engaged. We want to keep moving that ball forward. All right. So I knew there had to be a better way to do this. And within the first year of creating my business, I knew I needed some help around this. And then I got pregnant, and that was not a surprise. I was planning on getting pregnant. I feel like I led that up to sound like a great surprise. But when I got pregnant, I had the worst first trimester nausea. It was so bad. I had to work laying down for 3 months straight. Like, I could not, I was so sick. I could barely look at a computer. I had to move all my work hours till after 4 p.m. because I was just so sick all the way up until 4 p.m. And I knew, like, rationally, my mind was like, if you can't handle your business now, what makes you think you're going to be able to handle your business once there's a tiny human screaming and crying and keeping you up all night and running all over the house and like all the other things that come with becoming a mom? And even if you're not a mom, like just all the other things you want to do in life, right? Like maybe you want to travel, or maybe you have a really interesting hobby. Maybe you paint every day and you're like, I need to make sure I have time for that painting. Otherwise, like, I go crazy. So I realized very quickly that like my passion for my business alone was just not going to cut it. And that's where I'm just hopping back in the chat. Oh, good, Becca. Yeah, girl. I'm so glad. Yes, we have worked really hard on your systems to make sure that you don't have to do that anymore. Oh, Jennifer, you bring up a really good point. Okay, so Jennifer said she gets super excited, but then you also deal with the day-to-day and get lazy creating new ideas and trying something hard. Yeah, so this is another really interesting effect. I'm just going to pause for a second, like moving through the slides, and talk about this because I think it's super valuable. So I've noticed whenever I am stumbling upon something like brand new, like a new idea or something that's a little outside of like my comfort zone, I will often get a sensation of like, quote, laziness. I don't actually think it's laziness. However, there is that sensation where you like, all of a sudden the momentum stops and you're like, ooh, I'm not producing. I'm not moving forward. I'm not doing the thing I said I wanted to do. And that's something, yeah, your nervous system, totally. It's something that like, to me, I've now realized it's more of a red flag that I'm actually onto something really interesting, and I'm onto, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be like whatever I'm creating is interesting. What's happening is there's a limiting belief popping up for me, right? And so this is my body's way of saying like, you've taken on too much, or this isn't totally in alignment, or you're playing bigger than you usually do and you're worried you're going to get judged. Or like there's a lot of different narratives that can come up out of that. But whenever we have a sensation of like laziness or sluggishness or resistance in our business, it is a beautiful opportunity to get curious and to just look at like, why am I feeling that way? Like, what is this resistance that's popping up for me? Why am I not super excited to dive into this work? And that's not to say that like you need to be, 1,000% excited all the time about every aspect of your business. Like, sure, there are parts of my biz that I'm like, nah, that's annoying. I don't really feel like doing that. And hopefully we can get you to a place where you're automating those or outsourcing those pieces. But ultimately, like the vast majority of your work should feel really good. Like it should be exciting. You should be pumped to show up. It should be work that is, when you wake up in the morning, you're like, ooh, I can't wait to like sit down and work, right? Like you're almost like, I could bypass like breakfast and getting dressed and I'm just going to hop right on my computer, right? We don't need to be that way all the time again, but that is kind of like the vibe we're looking for. We want a lot of excitement. We want a lot of passion behind our work. And that's why it's super important that passion is part of this model. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful entrepreneur. So an unsuccessful entrepreneur is the person I was actually describing is me in the beginning of my business, right? So this is the person who is relying 90% of their effort is on passion, right? I'm expecting that my level of passion for my business is going to drive 90% of my success. And then there's like a little 10% of like other stuff kind of combined in there. This can be deeply problematic. And I'd argue it inevitably will always be pretty problematic. So here are a couple of things that I hear when I'm working with clients that are relying very heavily on passion to drive their business. These are things like, if I could just get this one more thing done, right? You're thinking a lot about quantity over quality. So if I could push a little harder, if I could do a little more, if I could get more content out, right? If I could post every single day this month, and then you proceed to like post for 5+ days and fall off the face of the earth. This is like, I'm going to make this new thing. No, wait, I'm going to make this new thing. Nope, I'm going to make this new thing, right? That's shiny object syndrome, where we get very distracted. We're not quite sure like what our actual core offering is. We're all over the place trying to figure out who we serve, what we do. Like we don't have a lot of clarity there. You're really looking for that magic bullet and you fail to really proceed on anything. And then another one that I see a lot of the time is like, dang, am I so tired? And like, this is true, I think, for most entrepreneurs at some point in your business. Like, there are going to be ebbs and flows, right? Like, there are going to be moments where you are pushing really hard for something. And yeah, you're going to get tired. Like, this is a lot of work. Running a business is not like, just sipping iced tea on the porch. Like, we are working here. But what I don't want to see is people taking calls every day of the week. You're working on the weekends. You're working 8+ hours, right? You're saying yes to every single business opportunity that comes your way. Like, this was me. When I first started my business, I said yes to everything. I was like, you want me to present there? Cool, I can do that. You want me to take this client who's completely not a good fit for me? Oh, sure, I can do that, right? Like, you want me to create this new offering that has nothing to do with my business, but you're a really cool person and I like you. Okay, I'll do that. Like, I was all over the place, just trying to say yes and just trying to like people please ultimately, right? So when we get into that mindset and we're focused just exclusively on that passion and we are running on all cylinders all the time, like, we will burn out. We'll get exhausted. Tell me in the chat, like, does that sound familiar at all to you? Are you like in this moment right now? Was this you in your past? Caroline said it's you right now. Yeah. Yeah, Jen, I totally hear you. This is a hard one. It's really difficult for us to learn how to create like that structure, to know when to say no, to know what to focus on, to move forward. Like, that's not an easy task, but it is something that you can 100% learn how to do. So I'm curious, if you said yes, what part like felt the most you? Like, when we're looking at some of these sentences, or maybe it's a different sentence and it made you think of it when you were looking at it. Tell me which ones really resonate for you. What's sticking out for you here? Quantity over quality. Yep. I used to think that like I had to have like 10 different courses. And that's not true. You can, but I don't need that, right? First, then that. No, wait. Go back. Go do this one. Wait, which way? Yeah, totally. Building courses over time. Totally, Erin. Yep. Awesome. All right. So when we rely solely on passion to propel our business, like I said, we're inevitably going to fall flat. The reason is that our passion ebbs and flows, right? Like, so every day I wake up, I'm not going to be 100% passionate about my work and about my business and about my clients and about my services and about showing up huge in the world. Like, I can't possibly love doing that 100% of the time. And so what I need is other things to support me and to support my business, so that on the days when I don't feel like driving a million miles an hour, like in my passion mobile, like, there's something else that's going to drive me through, right? There's something else that's going to support me. And this is there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm just super curious. Like, how do you personally know when you're relying too heavily on passion? And you might not know. This might be like brand new news to you, and you're like, I had no idea I was relying so heavily on passion. But I'm curious if you guys have thought about this, if this is self-awareness. You're tired. Yeah, totally. You feel worn out. Absolutely. What else? The passion goes away, right? Resentful. Oh, that's such a good one, Zoe. Yes. Tired. Question if it's still your passion. Oh, that happened to me. Yes, Jennifer, I agree. That happened to me. I was like, I don't even think I like my business anymore. Are you sure you wanted to start a business? Right? Like you get in that like, ooh, Lee, how did I get down this road? Do I even want to be doing this anymore? That's a big red flag for sure. Yeah. I think all of us at some point in time have been like, did I make a mistake starting a business? It's okay to feel that way. All right, so what's the alternative? Let's talk about it. This is the Masterful Mamas model. In the Masterful Mamas model, we're splitting up what is supporting us by 4 pillars. And these 4 pillars are passion, structure, systems, and family. And when all 4 pillars are balanced equally is when we're going to see the most success in our business. And what I like to define success by is really ease and joy. So if you've worked with me at all in the past, I know I have a couple current clients here showing up. Thanks for representing. I'm all about joy and ease. Is it joyful and is it easy? And easy is like, we need to be like kind of careful in how we define easy. Easy does not mean like it's as easy as getting dressed in the morning, although that could also be challenging. When I say easy, it's like I don't feel a great deal of resistance mentally or energetically at the proposition, at the idea of doing this thing in my business, right? And joyful, that should be pretty self-explanatory. Like, is it bringing you joy? Yes or no? And you're going to know pretty quick. And that doesn't mean that like something can't bring you joy and also be super scary. So we can talk more about that. But sometimes the things that we find very joyful and that are a lot of fun for us are also terrifying. Like public speaking could be one for you. All right, so I want to dive into each of these 4 pillars. We're going to talk about this. And as we move through, I'm going to ask you at the end which of the 4 pillars feels the most in alignment to you right now, just like on this afternoon, and which one feels the most out of alignment. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we move through these descriptions. I want you to kind of take a note, like what feels like, yeah, I have got that pillar nailed down. That feels really good to me right now. And then which one are you like, ugh, this is why I feel so yucky, right? Like this is the one that's missing. This is the missing link for me right now. All right, so the first one is passion. This is the one we've been talking about. It is super important. It's very likely why you created your business to begin with, was you had this passion. And what's super important is making sure that we're using that passion to propel your growth instead of relying on that passion to sustain like your entire business, right? Like it should be propelling us forward, not the only thing sustaining us. So in passion, we really need to be focused on mastering our mindset, our actions, our energy, as well as our time, so that we're making sure we're not holding our business back. What can happen sometimes is we, either through like limiting beliefs or mindset issues, potentially like energy mismanagement, like we can talk more about like what that looks like. But when we mismanage our energy, a lot of the time what it turns out to be is people will say like, I don't have time for that. I don't have enough time to do that. I don't have time to create a course. I don't have time to create a group program. I don't have time to like for this new service. I don't have time for another client. Usually what we mean is we don't have energy for that, right? Like there's a good amount of time in the day, and we can definitely, we'll look at like your timing and your scheduling of your day to make sure if you are one of those like 10 plus hours a day workers, we can work on like structuring that time better. But a lot of the time we can find the time, right? It's more that our energy has been mismanaged. And so we're feeling drained, we're feeling exhausted, we feel like we don't have any reserve to pull from, our cup is empty, we don't have any more to give. And if we're in that place, it's very hard for us to move our businesses forward. So I want you to ask yourself these questions. Take a mental note. You can also jot this down like on a piece of paper if you want. These are some questions to ask yourself about passion to know how balanced this pillar is feeling. So do I feel passionate about the work I'm doing? Does my work feel easy and joyful? Am I taking risks in my business and in my life? Sometimes when our passion is out of alignment, we avoid risk at all costs. And the simple fact is being a business owner is risky. And you will need to find comfort in that uncomfortable place of taking risk. Is my energy, for the most part, steady and stable, right? We're going to have ebbs and flows. That's okay. Especially, like if you're launching a new product, like sure, that's going to require a little more energy from you than on a period of time when you're not launching. However, for the most part, that should still feel pretty steady and stable. How are limiting beliefs holding me back, right? So these are, in Masterful Mamas, we do an exercise called the inner critic and inner mentor. And this is a really wonderful exercise that helps us identify some of the narratives that we have either grown up hearing, grown up telling ourselves, or have engaged in like our later years. Especially like for me, I had this very strong narrative coming into business that I was terrible at technology. Like that, I always said it. I'd be like, I don't know, I can't do that. I'm really bad at tech. Like I just suck at that, which wasn't true. And it took a lot of work for me to dismantle that narrative and to let it go and to write a new one that I embrace technology with curiosity and joy, right? That's my new mantra. And so identifying what those limiting beliefs are and how they're holding you back personally and how they're holding your business back. And then lastly, does my work have purpose? Like, is there meaning behind my work? I have a feeling if you signed up to engage with me in this webinar, that the work you do is purposeful and you find value in it. It's a big value for me in my business and in my life, is knowing that my work has purpose and knowing that my work is affecting other people's lives and that it's improving people's lives for the better. Any questions about passion? Does that feel pretty clear? Cool. Great. All right. So the next one, moving away from passion, is moving into structure. So structure is what holds us accountable to our goals. It's what allows us to say yes to the right things, and it allows us to say no to the wrong things. Structure needs to feel liberating and expansive, not constraining. And I am specifically talking to the rebels in the audience. I know we have a couple of rebels. I know I have at least 2 rebels logged in right now. If you're not familiar with Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies, you should definitely check that out. But rebels really struggle a lot of the time. Not all rebels, but many rebels struggle with structure. It feels really confining, and it feels like it impinges on their like creative output. And so we work really hard in the Masterful Mamas framework to create structure that actually is going to create space and liberation, right? Instead of constraint. Because structure means you have boundaries, and boundaries mean you value your time and means you have an abundance of time, right? And so that structure is super important. It helps us get clear, it helps us stay focused, and it's a real necessity for us to see growth. So a couple questions for us to think about when we're thinking about structure is, can I leave work at work, right? And of course, like that's a little funny right now because we're all working from home, but can I, like when I am done working, can I shut the computer down and be done and then be present in the other areas of my life? Or am I constantly thinking about that one thing I had to do, or what is so-and-so going to think about that email I sent, or I wonder if that social media post really landed? Like, it's okay to have these thoughts outside of our work time, but I want you to be able to fully engage with your kiddos, with your partner, with your community, with the hobbies that are important to you. Like, we need to be able to leave work at work. Otherwise, our creative juices will run dry, right? Like, it just gets too exhausting. So are my boundaries working for me? How comfortable am I saying no? How comfortable am I being in my spotlight? This is something we talk a lot about in Masterful Mamas, is stepping into your spotlight. So showing up in the world in a way that people can see you and can engage with you and can find you and talk to you and promote you and share you and love on you, right? Like, we need to be able to step into our spotlight and be as comfortable as possible there. Do I feel respected by my clients, my partners, and my family? And how many hours am I actually working? Tell me, how do those questions feel? Any like thoughts popping up for you when you're looking at structure? Hmm. Yeah, Caroline, the spotlight concept is interesting. Yeah. So, and I think Becca could even probably attest to this a little bit. It's something that she and I have been working on. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Is like, how do we want to show up in the world? How do we want to influence people in the world? How do we want to be a role model for our clients? Um, and a lot of that can come, that can look like being a guest appearance on a podcast. That could look like showing up on JV webinars. That could look like writing a blog post. It could be like, there's a lot of different ways that we can engage and show up and like show people that our words are worthy, right? And that our ideas matter and that we have something to say. So you said, I feel like not wanting to be in the spotlight often adds to resistance. Sure, yeah. Posting about work stuff on social media can feel really hard. Yep. Yeah, Jennifer, that's an interesting one. Like, when we have the boundaries, but then the time doesn't feel well structured. And so it's almost like, I can relate to that. There was a point in the beginning of my business when I felt like I had good boundaries of like saying no and saying yes, but I had a really hard time figuring out like, what should I actually be doing in the concentrated like work chunks throughout the day? Like, how, like, should I be working on marketing? Should I be working on content creation? Should I be like reaching out to warm leads? Like, what is it I'm supposed to actually be doing in each section of the day to be moving my business forward and to be generating sales? That can be very tricky to understand. Madison, you said, I struggle with just about all of these points. Totally. It's easy for me to mentally focus on and want these things, but I have trouble following through with it in practice. Yeah. So Madison, have you ever taken the 4 Tendencies quiz by Gretchen Rubin? All right, check that out. It's something we do in the Masterful Mamas as well. It's a free quiz. It takes like maybe 10 minutes. And it's all about like what you're motivated by. And so for some of us, we're externally motivated. For some of us, we're internally motivated. Others are a combination of the two. Yeah. And then the fourth are what I was talking about, is rebels, that they're not motivated by internal or external. Hold on. Let me, 4 tendencies. So what's helpful about this is, and what I'm wondering specifically for you, Madison, is if you don't have the right structure in place, it's going to be very difficult for you to implement the things you want to do, right? And so like for me, I am an obliger. So I respond really well to external pressure and like external check-ins. So I do super well with a coach. I do really well when I feel like I'm accountable to my clients. I do well with like weekly check-ins. I do well with a workout partner. Like, I would never work out alone. Never going to happen in a million years. So like, I know that about myself. And so I know that like during this COVID, I had to create my own little workout class on Zoom so that, and I'm responsible for writing the workouts, and it's just my family. But like, I would not work out if I did not have that pressure, that external pressure to show up and do it. And so that's kind of like what I'm talking about with structure, is understanding like how are you motivated to get things done, and then implementing that structure yourself so that you can make sure you're meeting the goals that you genuinely want to be meeting, right? There is sometimes we'll see like if you're consistently not meeting a goal, it might mean that the goal is not appropriate and we would want to reevaluate that. But a lot of the time it's really the structure. Like have we created an expectation that is reasonable to meet for ourselves? Yeah, totally. Cool. All right, so the third one is systems. This is one I spoke briefly like just a minute ago about an old narrative of like being terrible at technology. This was a huge hurdle for me when I started my business. I would say it was one of the largest hurdles. I cried almost on a daily basis about technology. I was so scared. I was really, really scared to adopt tech systems. And I mean, you can ask any one of my clients now. I love technology. I like bathe in it. I'm like constantly I'm trying out new platforms all the time, and I get really excited about it. And I find it can be a super fun place to be creative and playful. And it almost feels like art to me in a way. So yeah, so systems are what enable us to automate, scale, and grow. Systems are what allow me to get paid while I'm sleeping. They allow me to get paid and get things out the door while I'm nursing or trying to take a shower or whatever else I'm trying to do with my life, right? Like systems are what maintain my business and move it forward so that I could actually take off 3 whole months for maternity leave and pick my business up right back up when I was ready, right? And so if I didn't have systems, if I hadn't put systems in place and automations in place, like my business would have flatlined when I went on maternity leave, because I'm just me. Like I don't have a team. It's just me. And so I needed to make sure that those systems were really appropriate. So they don't have to be scary. They don't have to feel overwhelming. You do not have to adopt them all at once. And they also don't have to cost a ton of money. There are systems that cost a ton of money, and that's fine if you want to play with them. But I'm all about like, how many free systems can I possibly get on board? And then once I need to move into paid systems, like what are the ones that are going to do as many things as possible for me so that I don't have to be navigating like 15 different platforms all at the same time? I think you probably can guess like when our systems are lacking, we become a serious bottleneck, right? And so tell me actually in the chat, I'm curious, like for those of you that have like a full-fledged business running right now, how, like if you had to guess the percentage of your business that requires 100% of you, what would that be? So I'm curious, like for me, like I would say I have a very high touch business. So the vast majority of my services require me, right? Like I am Emily Ely Coaching. I would say about 65% of my business requires me to be hands-on. Nice, Jen. Yeah, cool. I would love to hear more about what you're looking at for tech. We can definitely talk about that. Anybody else? I'm curious, like how much of your business requires you to be hands-on? Carol, I'm about like, I would say about 65%. Like you can certainly purchase things. Yeah, Becca, me too. I'm also shooting to get that number down. Yeah. I would say about 65%. Like you can purchase things from me without me having to be present. You can learn things from me without me being present. But then like the vast majority, I would say, of my sales are definitely like one-on-one or high touch services for sure. And that like I've chosen to make my business that way. I really enjoy that. I enjoy the person, like the high touch, like one-on-one services are very valuable to me. Like, again, that goes back to my passion, right? Like that's in alignment with my passion. I would not feel good if I transformed my business into like 90% courses, that are all DIY and everything's just running by itself and I'm sitting back in the background not coaching. Like that would squash my passion. I would not do well there. But for some people, that's the way they thrive, right? Like they would prefer to be present 10 to 20% of the time. I think what's important is making sure that we are like probably less than 80 would be my guess. Because if we're above 80, it just makes it very hard to scale. It makes it very hard for us to grow. And so we will plateau in our services and plateau in our sales at a much faster rate. All right, so looking at some of these questions, can people pay me while I'm sleeping? This is one of my favorites. There is like nothing more enjoyable than like waking up in the morning and seeing you made money while you were sleeping. It's like one of the best things ever. Do I have passive income options? This is a great one. This is where I see a lot of clients that already have established businesses coming to me for help, is looking to create virtual or passive income options. And that's something we will be covering in Masterful Mamas. Can people navigate my website with ease and joy? Zoe, I'm looking at you, girl, my UX master over there, right? Like you need to be able to navigate my systems without it getting clunky and feeling like, am I an idiot? Like, why can't I figure out how to pay you? I had this experience a little while ago with a service provider, and I wanted to buy something and I could not figure out how to pay them. It was so frustrating. I was like, man, like I'm going to go look somewhere else now, right? Like I'm going to go find someone else who does something similar to what you do, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to figure out how to just enroll in your course. That's frustrating. Am I taking imperfect action? This is a huge one for me. Tell me in the chat box, do you know what I mean when I say imperfect action? Yeah, Becca, it is the best. Maybe not sure. Okay, cool. You can get a sense. Yeah, so imperfect action for me is, how do I want to describe this? So if I had, let's do this. Let's do a really live, like tangible example. Masterful Mamas is the course that I'm talking about, right? Is the group program that I have just launched in this last week. It could have taken me 6 months, a year to create that program, right? Like I could have taken a very, very long time to plan out every single detail, to plan out every single call, to create all the worksheets, to create all the exercises, everything ahead of time, right? I could have done that. However, I chose to take imperfect action and not worry so much about creating everything up front, not worry too much about like, do I have the exact right verbiage? Is every single period and comma in the right place? Do I have like the most up-to-date website possible, right? Like those are all things that I could put in my way to stop me from taking action. Instead, I'm choosing to just show up, right? I'm choosing to show up and trust that I know what I'm doing, trust that I'm going to find my people, and take that imperfect action. I'm going to move the ball forward regardless of how, I don't want to say regardless of how prepared I am, because obviously like there is some preparation and we have to be like confident in what we're teaching, but I'm not going to iterate over and over and over and over and over again, trying to come up with the perfect content or the perfect sales page, because there's no such thing as perfect, right? Every single thing I have ever created could always be redone and made better. That's just the way it is. Like, and if I want to take time to go back and redo it over and over again, that's fine. I can do that. I can choose to make that, right? But being willing to, yes, exactly, Caroline, being willing to make mistakes and treat it as a practice anyway. There's something that my coach always tells me, that like we have to go through every experience we go through in order to get to the next experience. The first time I ever tried to do a paid live workshop, no one showed up, okay? Not a single human showed up. It happens, right? Like sometimes we miss the mark. Sometimes we create something and nobody wants it. Sometimes like we just totally drop the ball and we don't do it right, and that's okay. Like I learned from that experience. Has it happened since? Nope. Like I learned what was wrong in that moment, and I could take new action moving forward, right? And so this comes into like that risk aversion as well. I know, Molly, you had mentioned this a little bit in, I think in our correspondence back and forth. I think you're still on here, Molly. And yeah, you're in here. Being risk averse is very similar and falls in alignment with taking perfect action, right? Like we're afraid that if we don't have perfect action, that nobody's going to buy, that nobody's going to like us, that no one's going to show up. Well, if no one shows up and nobody buys, like that's just another data point telling you, okay, I need to pivot and move it in a different direction. Like it's not a reflection of you personally. It doesn't mean that like you suck or that you're stupid. It just means you missed the mark on that one moment. So our systems can help us take this imperfect action, right? If those are all in place, there's a lot more space for me to play and try different things. All right. So do I have the support and team members to do what I want, right? Some of us are looking to grow a team. That's really important. We need to have that support, from virtual assistants, from other people that we're bringing onto our team, from graphic designers, from whatever it is. Like we need to know that those people have our back and we have systems set up to communicate with them. And then lastly, what is my internal narrative about technology? This is, like I said, this is a personal one for me. And I know I'm not alone. I know there are other folks out there that also struggle with like the bombardment of like all the tech systems, especially when you first get into business, and especially if you're trying to run a 100% virtual business. All right. Last but not least of this model is family. So when I first designed this model, I actually hadn't included family. And I'm curious, have any of you heard of the book Dropping the Ball by Tiffany DeFoo? No, okay. This is a really wonderful book, and I strongly encourage you investigating it, especially if you are in a partnership. What I'm talking about, she talks a lot about what she calls our all-in partnerships, and this can be, she's talking specifically about her and her husband. They both have high-paying, like high octane careers. She like works for the White House and he works in finance. And so they have like big, large, full-time careers, and they have two littles. And so when I was making this model, I thought a lot about like my partner and my little babe take an enormous amount of my time in a good way. I'm glad that they do. But I really need their support. Like I really need them to be on board with what I'm doing. Otherwise, the resentment starts to build. And you might have felt this like maybe in a relationship before, or it's happening in your current relationship where your partner doesn't totally either believe in what you're doing, understand what you're doing. Maybe you're in the phase where like your business still feels a little bit like a hobby. Or they might be some like jealousy, right? Like I've actually talked about this with my partner. He was at one point, he was like, I'm so envious that you love your business so much. Like, I don't know if I love my career as much as you love your business. So there's like a lot of opportunities for friction to happen. Maybe you're even in business with your partner. That's also a possibility. But there's a lot of ways in which we can find areas of friction in our family and in our family life if we do not have what I like to call is an all-in partnership. And so this is something we're going to be diving into in Masterful Mamas. She's got some really cool exercises in the book, Dropping the Ball, around how to like let go of, she calls it like matriarchal gatekeeping. And so this looks like, for instance, like I'm the only one that can pack the kids' lunch, or I'm the only one who knows how to do bedtime, or I'm the only one who knows how to water the plants. or like there's a lot of ways in which, especially as women and especially as women who are in roles of like caretaking as well as entrepreneurship, we wear so many hats, and there are opportunities for us at every corner to be like, no, it shouldn't be done that way. Yeah, Zoe, I actually thought of you when I said that. Like there's so many opportunities for us to be like, don't do it that way, do it this way, do it my way, right? Like my way is the best way. My way is the way that works. But the problem with that is if we gatekeep and we like we refuse, she calls it imaginary delegating. If we refuse to appropriately delegate areas of our life, whether that's to a partner, to a family member, to a babysitter, like whoever it is that's supporting you, I use family as like a very loose term here. If we cannot appropriately delegate some of our work away, there will never be enough time and space for you to truly invest in your business. And that's why I added family in. Yeah, yeah, Erin. That's why I added family into this model, because like if my husband didn't believe in my business, if he was not capable or willing of taking care of Bo right now, which is what he's doing while I'm on this webinar, like if he did not truly believe that my career is as important as his, like this wouldn't work, right? I wouldn't have the time and the space to show up here for y'all. I would be pissed at my partner. Like there needs to be this aspect of family where we can have open and honest conversations with the people that support us in our lives around our business. Because there are only so many hours in the day, right? And especially in times like right now where we have no babysitter, like our level of communication has to be even more like transparent and authentic and clear and future oriented. And so I just truly believe that this is a very valuable aspect to the Masterful Mamas framework that I haven't seen in other programs. I haven't seen other programs like value family support as much as I would like to see it done. So I know we're starting to get a little close to time. I've been real chatty today. I was so excited to come show up here with you guys. But here are some questions I want you to think about in regards to family. What am I modeling for my littles about my work ethic? Do I feel supported by my partner or my family? What happens if I take a hit in my business financially? This is like a big one to think about. Like, is my partner going to be angry with me or disappointed with me or upset with me? Like how much of my, for some moms here, they are primary earners in their family. Like, what does that look like if you take a financial hit in your business? How are you going to have those conversations? Do I have the paid or unpaid support I need to grow my business? Do I have the bandwidth and energy to play with my kiddos or to be in my garden or to do my painting or to go hiking on the weekends, right? Like we need to make sure that this part of your life is supported enough that you have energy to show up there. All right. So like I asked you at the beginning, I know that was a lot of content. I've been thinking about this for a long time. And so I'm like just super excited to be sharing it with you. But I'm curious if you could tell me, like, which pillar, or maybe there's more than one, did like most resonated with you where you were like, ugh, that's the space I really need help. Like that's the space I really need support. I'll even tell you, for me, I think right now, I would say like the family support part is like systems for you, Becca. Yeah. I would say family for me. And I don't mean that in terms of my own family as much as we haven't been able to have our babysitter because of COVID. And that has been very stressful for both of us. It's put a big, it's been very taxing for both of us to like have no break and no care. Erin said, should be no surprise, but systems and even structure. Yep. Jennifer, passion, limiting beliefs, taking risk, but also systems. Yep. Madison, you said passion and structure. Great. Awesome. I'm glad that these are like hitting home. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like we need all four parts of this Masterful Mamas model. And if you only have one, you're definitely at risk for burnout, costly mistakes in your business, doing it all by yourself, partner resentment, hitting plateaus, missing out on your littles, and sabotaging your business. And when it comes to implementing the entire Masterful Mamas model, growing your business and supporting your family and your life outside of your business, most of us need a little extra support there. So this is where Masterful Mamas comes in. And this is what I'm so excited to be sharing with you today. This is a high-touch group coaching program for mama business owners, entrepreneurs, and service providers who are ready to use their business as a catalyst for creating the life they want. So we talked a little bit in the beginning about like, what does that mean? What is using your your business as a catalyst? I think Becca is in the chat right now. I think Becca is a wonderful example of using her business as a catalyst. Becca has used her business to not only like be profitable and support her and her family financially, but she's also used it and used her systems and her structure in a way that has created so much space for her to spend time with her kiddos and to actually like launch a side hustle. If y'all have not heard of Not Secret Garden, you should 100% go check that out. It's on Instagram. And Becca, feel free to throw your handle in the chat box. It's super great. But what I love so much is like, Becca has been able to create so much space in her business that she actually created another side business, which is like, that's so cool. Like that you have enough time and space to spend time with your family, to show up for your clients, and to also start more businesses. I think that's super rad. Makes me really happy. I've had a wonderful time working with Becca. So let's talk a little bit about like what is included in this enrollment for Masterful Mamas. So first and foremost, this is going to be a group program that I am going to walk you through. It's a curriculum that I have designed based off of this model that we just went through. So this 4-part framework. And during this pilot session, the trainings are going to be dripped out every week. We're going to have a weekly call, and those trainings will come out each week. You'll get access to new content and things to implement into your business. You are going to have everything you need to fully implement the strategies within the timeline that I map out for you. We have weekly live coaching calls. So this is like a huge, to me, this was like a no-brainer. I was just so excited to be able to show up weekly for y'all. And so for 3 months, we're going to have a weekly call on Thursdays. And these calls are exclusively for Masterful Mamas clients. You're going to get an opportunity to ask any questions. You can get feedback on anything from like sales pages to content creation to adopting new systems. We can do tech tutorials. We can do like, it's really, the sky is the limit. The way it's going to work is the calls are going to alternate. The first week will be a training. It's something I'm leading. And then the second week will be a live like Q&A. You can bring forth anything you want to get feedback on. You can ask questions. We can talk about mindset. We'll do whatever you guys need in that other call, and it'll alternate back and forth like that for the 3 months. We also have 3 guest trainers coming on. One is going to be about market research. Another one is going to be on brand clarity. And a third is going to be on like self-care and mindset. So like how to self-regulate, especially for like the moms in the group when you have, I mean, like, if you're like me, there is often a screaming child in the background, and it's like, it's really hard to focus when this is happening, right? And so like, my hope for you is that you can start to learn some tools to self-regulate through those times as well. We also have a private Facebook group, which is live and ready to go, where you're going to be surrounded by online and brick and mortar businesses. So I do have a couple brick and mortar businesses that are going to be enrolling in Masterful Mamas, which will be really fun. So if you're not a virtual entrepreneur, that's totally fine. You've got, you know, hairstylist, tattoo artist, gym owner, like whatever it is, you can have a brick and mortar business and still find this program really supportive and helpful. You'll be able to ask questions, get feedback from my team and your peers. The group is really there for you to ask questions, post polls, get feedback on your work. Plus, you're just going to like make the best friends ever in the group, which is what I'm super excited about. We're also going to do daily, biweekly, and quarterly planning. So if you're familiar, if you're one of my coaching clients or you've worked with me in the past, I always work in 90-day cycles. So we're going to set a 90-day action plan for you. You're going to set 1 to 3 goals for your business and your personal life that you're going to be accomplishing in those 3 months that we are together. This can be, you know, looking at like what you want your relationship with your family to look like through these 3 months, what you want your relationship with money to look like. We're going to get super crystal clear. You fill out a very extensive questionnaire and a 90-day action plan prior to starting the program. This is Brooke. Brooke is one of my past clients. She said, being a client of Emily's feels like a gift. Thanks, Brooke. Brooke and I worked a lot on her career growth, and she actually was able to take a 6-month sabbatical and travel through Australia and New Zealand and return back to work when she left, which was super cool. So again, creating space for you to do whatever it is you want to be doing. And then a little bit about the roadmap, like what are we going to actually be accomplishing in these 90 days? So in the beginning of the 90-day cycle, we're going to implement structure and identify your 1 to 3 goals. Within the first 60 days, we're going to build out your systems and begin that growth process. And then within the full 90 days, we're going to be covering the all-in partnership, wrap up your 90-day goals, talk about future planning, next steps for you, and then ongoing support of implementation, feedback, assessing results, and continued growth. This is Susan. Susan was a wonderful client. She had some super sweet things to say to me. Susan's also a mama. She had a really interesting time of like really, I'm curious if any of you have done this, like pivoting. And so pivoting can be so challenging if we are like, we started off on one track and we're all of a sudden we're like, oh gosh, you know what? Like there's this other track and it looks super cool and I really want to take advantage of that. So we worked a lot with Susan about pivoting her career, which was a big lift for her, and she was incredibly successful at it in the end, which was wonderful to watch. All right, so you're probably wondering, what's the investment? Oh, Caroline, yeah. And how many people are in the group? Good questions. Okay, I'm going to come back to those as soon as I get through this part. Don't worry. So what's the investment? When you enroll today, these are all the things that you're going to get. Everything you need to become the business owner you're meant to be, create your own work-life balance, transform your business, use it as a catalyst for change. I've got endless amounts of templates and processes for every step along the way. We have so many different exercises to go through. I'm like super jazzed about that. Weekly coaching with me. We also have those guest trainers coming in, personalized feedback on your work, private Facebook community to be a part of. And if you pay in full, you actually get a 30-minute one-on-one coaching call with me to use in that 3 months. All right, so later this year, I'm actually going to be launching this program again, and it is going to be over $3,000. I'm just going to be totally upfront with you about that. However, you can enroll today for just 3 payments of $397. So, or you can pay in full and get that free 30-minute call and actually save $80 by paying $11.11. So this is like heck of a steal. Literally will never be this price again. So yeah, when you pay in full, you get that 30-minute call with me. You can use that at any point. And you can use that call to talk about anything you want. You can submit things to me prior if you wanted me to look at something specific. Usually people use these calls as more of like a high level, like what is the trajectory of my business? And more of like a pick my brain of like, if I was you, what would I do with your business kind of question. These can be really valuable, like visionary, futuristic sessions. Okay, again, so you have a button right below you. It says enroll in Masterful Mamas today. It's green. If you click that, that'll take you to the sales page. And so you just want to make sure that you enroll. If you want to jump on this price deal, this $397, you just need to make sure you enroll before the timer runs out. This price is going to expire at midnight on the 18th. That is Monday. Had to look at a calendar. All right, so to remind you, these are all the things that are included. You've got the curriculum, the templates, all of the live coaching, personalized feedback on your work, the private Facebook group, and then that bonus 30-minute call with me. All right, so that's all I've got for you right now, and I would love to dive into some questions. I'm sure you've got some. I'm also going to just stop sharing my screen so you can see my face and get a little water. Yeah, Caroline. So I'm thinking probably going to be noon. It's probably going to be the same time on Thursdays. This is usually a good time for our like nap schedule, to be honest. And however, that being said, like there will be, I just like love adding new things in and adding bonuses. So I'm sure there will be other opportunities for like webinars and live trainings and things like that that will be sprinkled throughout that will be at different times. Every single call, so every Thursday we have our live call, whether it's me or it's a Q&A or it's a special trainer. All of those calls are going to be recorded and will be uploaded immediately to the Facebook group. So you can watch them as many times as you want. You can watch them on your own time. You'll be able to submit questions prior. So if, for instance, you were like, on this Thursday, I can't make it, but I really would love to get some feedback on X, Y, and Z, you can submit that ahead of time and I'll make sure to go over it while I'm in that live call. Does that answer your question, Carolyn? And then Jen, you asked how many people in the group? Yeah, no problem, girl. So Jennifer, yeah, I'm looking to cap this program at about 10 women. I'm hoping to keep it kind of on the smaller side. I really would love for it to be like an intimate experience where we all get to know each other really well. Everybody knows everybody's name. This is not like hundreds of people in this program kind of thing. It's very high touch for me. It's like it's going to be a lot of work on everybody's end, right? Like I'm going to be delivering a ton of value and showing up wholeheartedly. The calls are probably going to average around anywhere between an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much we have to cover. And so I just want to make sure that I'm not like stretching myself too thin, that I can be as attentive as humanly possible to all of your needs, and that I can give you really genuine feedback on all of your work. So we're going to be capping it at about 10. Any other questions? I have some questions that were submitted ahead of time that I can definitely dive into, but feel free to shoot off if anyone else has questions. Another question I did receive was, is this only for moms? And I thought that was a really good question. The answer is no, it's not only for moms. I have definitely designed this framework with moms in mind, as I am one. And this is the life I am living currently at this moment. And so it's really important to me. And there's a special place in my heart for moms that are also trying to balance a full-time business. That being said, if you are an individual that's like, I really want to set myself up and I want to set my business up so that I can leave it. I can leave it on autopilot for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And, you know, it's important to you to have space and time outside of your business, then I think this is absolutely an appropriate program. Like that is the foundation for what we're trying to do here, is to create a business that doesn't require 100% of you all the time. I also had another sister ask if you need to have a full-fledged business already created in order to join. And I thought that was another really good question. As long as you have an idea of what it is you want to be doing, like what your offering is, what you're trying to put out into the world, and you're serious about creating a business, to me, like that's enough. We can definitely talk more about like, you're probably going to be more at the beginning end of adopting some systems versus some people are going to already have those systems well integrated into their business, and they're going to be asking more intricate questions, which I think there's like no harm in learning what is like 2 to 3 steps ahead of you, right? As long as that's not going to be overwhelming to you and you're not going to feel like you're behind the ball, which you're not. We all just go at different paces. As long as that's the case for you, then I think it's definitely an appropriate position. So you asked, do you have an idea of what time the calls will be happening? Yeah, Zoe. So it'll be around 12 p.m. Eastern time. That's what I'm thinking right now. And like I said, all the calls will be recorded. So you can always, if you have to jump off or if you're coming in late, you can always do that. Cool. Oh, Jennifer, I didn't know you were here because of Becca. Cool. Yay. Awesome. Any other questions? I know I've taken us a little past an hour. Does it matter if I've coached someone with this business model before, or if you haven't had experience with it? Jennifer, do you mean like Do you mean, does it matter if I personally have coached someone? Yeah, Becca, I'm so excited to have you in it. Bye, Zoe. Thanks so much for coming. Oh, okay, yeah, good question. Yeah, so what's super cool about business coaching is it's not my job to be an expert in your industry or your field. So like for instance, with Becca, like I'm not an expert at market research. Like that is not my job. It's Becca's job to be an expert at market research. It's my job to teach Becca how to show up in the world, right? Like so where I excel is teaching you how to adopt systems, how to create structure around your day, around your week, around your quarters, and ultimately to help you like break down the limiting beliefs that all of us have when we're going into business. So I actually don't need to be an expert in whatever industry like your business is in, which makes this really wonderful because we can have so many different industries coming into this group and people are going to be learning from all of those different women, like so many different things like that won't maybe directly apply or you hadn't thought of before, but you're like, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. For instance, like one woman that I model a lot of my business off of in the past is a registered dietitian. Totally different business than me, but we have tons of the same systems. We use a lot of the same content planning. She's also just my best friend, so I love and adore her. But that's what's really neat about like business coaching is I get to be agile enough that I meet your demands and your needs wherever they are. And I don't need to be an expert in your industry. Cool. No problem, Jennifer. Any other questions? All right. Well, if that is it, then thank you so much for coming today. I had such a pleasure hanging out with you all. It was so much fun delivering this content. I hope it was really valuable for you. Reminder that the timer will end at midnight on the 18th. The price will be going up $333. So you want to make sure that if this is something that's interesting to you, that if you feel like, yep, this is the program for me, I am like in, do not wait. Hop on that train, get the button, sign yourself up, and I can't wait to see you inside. It's going to be so much fun. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm always available. You probably have, I'll just throw my email in here just in case you need it, but y'all have probably already received an email from me thanking you for coming to the webinar. And I'll also send a follow-up. So there's that. All right. Thanks, Madison. And we should totally connect, Madison. Beso, Caroline. Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a wonderful day.